Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Ask Hugo number 3. And last time we asked you to ask good questions, and you actually did.
Holy shit, the internet worked for a second.
I know, that's amazing.
That's the best thing.
Anyways, so here are the questions. Go ahead, Jake.
First question on the docket. Matt Herbert asks, at what point do you give up on a discussion with a theist? Sometimes I feel like stopping is giving up, and then there's a time where I go, this guy is a lost cause.
I guess I don't go into discussions with theists with an agenda to say, in this discussion, I'm going to change their minds on this or that. I just have a discussion like I would with any other person, and if we're talking about religion, assuming we are, I just talk about it like I would talk about it with anyone. I'd talk respectfully. I'd try and give my opinion without being rude, because I feel like some people who discuss religion and are atheists tend to be a little in people's face.
Yeah, which is, it doesn't work.
No.
From personal experience, and also I've seen Hugo do it in his infancy of
of
loud atheism.
I used to be fucking terrible.
That's why everyone goes through that though, because you get annoyed by all the shit that is suddenly very clear to you. Like, why can't everyone else see it?
Yeah.
The best method, in my opinion, is always the Socratic method, and just keep asking them questions and lead them around, because eventually they'll have to concede at least one point, or they'll quit.
Yeah.
You won't quit. So.
I don't find myself getting frustrated enough to quit at this point.
Very rarely.
Discussions end at a certain point inevitably, but I've never walked away like, I quit. I don't rage quit that much anymore. I mean, to an extent, sometimes like on Twitter, you'll get someone who's just so actually maybe seems crazy. Yeah. And then maybe you'll just be like
Like Sandy Hook conspirators.
I'm not really feeling it, but for the most part, I don't know. I don't treat it like that. I just have a discussion, and I mean, if what I say plants any sort of seeds of doubt or questioning, that's great. If not, that's cool. It's their life. I don't particularly care.
Philip Rottingham asks, question for Hugo. That's good, because it's Ask Hugo. Do you think that the world would be better off without religion?
I think that's a hard question to answer, and I've seen other atheists get asked this before. I think the only honest answer I can give you is I don't know. Because, I mean, I have no way of seeing what it would be without it. Do I think that religion has detrimental aspects? Absolutely. I think that it's usually, at its fundamental levels, fairly anti-science, which I think is hurtful. But you can also look in the past and say religion has helped advance science and mathematics in certain aspects. Look at
the Arabic world and Romans.
Which, don't get me wrong, I think those things would have been discovered one way or another. Yeah. But religion offered a reason for them to have a necessity to discover those things. For instance, certain mathematics were developed, at the time at least, in the region to try and find the position of Mecca in relation to yourself. Right. So, I mean, do I think the modern world would be better without it? Probably. I think it pretty much is without it for the most part. I think whatever Christians might want to say, in the Western world, we're already living in a secular world. Yeah. Certainly there are fringe elements and shit that gets in the way, don't get me wrong. We've all heard certain politicians speak.
And obviously the Islamic world has some influence, especially in Europe.
But I don't know, I can't say one way or the other. Do I think now it would be better off? Probably. Can I say it would have been better off in the past? I don't know, I think people would have found things to fight about and argue about anyway. Yeah. So the answer is basically, I don't know, but I think my personal biased opinion, probably.
The third question on Ask Hugo, by The Soft Glow of Brightly Burning Hope. That is their screen name. Dear Hugo, why won't Jake answer questions? Does he hate us?
I've stopped trying to understand why Jake does what he does. I've gone down that road before, and it is a dark place. It is hard to get back from. You ever see that episode of SpongeBob where they go down that chasm and he just can't get back up because the road is vertical? That's the mental journey I have to take when trying to understand Jake's motives, and I refuse to do it any longer. So you'll have to ask him yourself, but again, he won't answer your questions. It's a catch-22. I'm sorry.
Nizadi asks, hashtag Ask Hugo, what Bible story are you most looking forward to? The more insane stories are now done. Is there another crazy story you've really revved up to go over and pick apart?
I take exception with your claim that all the crazy Bible stories are over.
As do I.
You are absolutely wrong.
You are completely wrong. I don't think you've read enough of it.
But for things specifically, I'm excited for the entire New Testament, because I think, for one, that's the anchor of most Christians' belief in God. I mean, you bring up the Old Testament to Christians, they'll easily be like, it's the Old Testament. So I think
we have to go in order.
I know. A lot of the stuff in the New Testament, though, is just so great. I mean, the fig tree story, the pig story, they take a fucking donkey for Jesus, even though it's not his. I mean, it's not as outlandish in the sense that maybe there aren't oceans being divided, but on a more personal level, some of these stories are fucking crazy.
Yeah. And the way we're going to do the New Testament is going to be wonderful.
So I'm looking forward to that, personally.
William Beard asks, I'm going to call him Billy Beard from now on, forever. Billy Beard asks, do you watch the Atheist Experience? If so, in your opinion, what was the funniest / dumbest call or argument?
Yeah, I watched the Atheist Experience.
Matt Dillahunty, friend of the show. Boom.
Yeah, I've watched that even before we started the show.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy it. I think it's good. I think the people who are on it are often very good communicators of atheism and explaining what it is and making arguments. My favorite is Matt, I think, as is most people's.
Yeah.
My favorite call from the show, I guess you would call it, is the episode where the entire episode was just they called Ray Comfort and had him on and they talked to him.
That's a really good episode. That might be my favorite as well.
It's just such an interesting contrast. And Matt, I love that Matt's in that episode. And he just keeps pointing out the things that Ray's saying that don't make sense. And then Ray will make an assertion and put words in Matt's mouth. And Matt will be like, I did not say that. And it's just like an hour of that. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy most things that Ray Comfort is in where he's actually discussing a topic with people who know what they're talking about. Because usually in his things, he does man-on-the-street things where he picks people who are seem super stupid.
And he leads them along on this path that he's already orchestrated.
I like any time Ray Comfort doesn't have the reins of the production and it really shows how uninformed and bad at his job he is.
Yeah. Matthew Hyman asks, hey Hugo, I was wondering, when you watch other atheist YouTubers, do you find yourself having conflicting views / beliefs on issues not regarding religion? And would you subscribe to a YouTuber who had contradicting views on a few issues?
Yeah, I'm subscribed to a lot of channels for the show, basically, because I think it's good to watch other people and see what they're doing, because it's, I mean, it is a community, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we all talk, really.
And I assume a lot of you guys who are subscribed to us are subscribed to them, so it's good to know. For one, I don't want to go over a lot of the stuff other people have gone over a lot of times, like, let's say TJ, Dark Matter, Logic,
Cult of Dusty.
They all go over something. I don't necessarily want to retread what they've done. Yeah. That's for one reason, like, recently there was a video that everyone jumped on top of.
The guy in the car with the beard and the hat?
Yeah, who talked about evolution. Everybody did that, and I don't want to...
I don't like to do that either.
Because it's so easy. We all have already heard these arguments, which is great for them. I understand. I get it.
Someone's got to do it, but we don't.
I just don't feel like doing that. But as far as the political differences or just different ideologies, absolutely.
It's interesting that you'd even ask that, honestly.
I'll point out one right now, and I'll say it because, you know, we've talked, and I'm totally cool with admitting this. I disagree with TJ with a lot of things.
Yeah, we do.
And I think he knows that, and that's fine. Yeah. I agree with him a lot of things, too, but there are certain political issues I absolutely disagree with him on.
And that's kind of the point, though. Like,
yeah, and I like hearing dissenting opinions. I don't want to be in just an echo chamber.
I listen to Fox News on my radio in my car when I drive around sometimes, just because I want to hear what's out there. I don't want to just get my news from the same thing over and over. And I think that's the issue with the red v blue people. Like, they just it's kind of an echo chamber thing. They just listen to the same rhetoric over and over. It's like, I love it when there's another atheist YouTuber that has a different opinion on stuff. I think we're one of the very few relatively popular YouTube channels that get mad at people for really being like toxic towards Christians.
Yeah.
Because they're just people.
I don't feel the need for that. I see people doing that on other YouTube channels all the time. Not some, like, certainly not a lot of the people we know, but I've certainly seen people just be shitting on Christians for their beliefs.
It's actually the only time we've actually blocked a person from our channel. He was being toxic towards a Christian.
Yeah. And I have no problem even shitting on Christianity as a religion or an ideology, but I don't think you need to be rude to people for it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be rude to people, but not like a bad person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I heard the best analogy for this the other day, and it actually came from Bill Maher, interestingly enough, because he's someone who is kind of an asshole sometimes. He said, I don't respect you necessarily, but I respect your bladder, and what he meant by that is, I don't necessarily have to like you, or like what you're saying, but when we go to when we're in a bathroom, we all wait in line. We're all in a society, and regardless of our opinions of each other, we all have to respect each other as people and give each other some amount of respect, and I agree with that.
That is a really good analogy. Good for him.
And here's the thing, too. I know that when people like Ray Comfort and Ken Ham die, I guarantee there's going to be a segment of the atheist community who's going to be like, haha, good. And that's terrible. Everyone who's listening to this, if you hear they die, you don't have to be sad about it, because I don't think everyone who dies you'd have to be sad about it. But don't be one of those people. If you people remember when Christopher Hitchens died, there was a segment of Christians who were like, haha, good, you got cancer and died. Yeah. And
the only person I was happy about was Fred Phelps.
Even then, I don't really give a shit.
Well, I didn't give a shit, but I was like, you know what? Maybe it was less because he died and more because of the effect on Westboro, but apparently it didn't change anything. So I thought it would help.
Yeah, but I disagree with people's beliefs, but I don't disagree with the person themselves. You know, I think everyone deserves a certain amount of respect that you would afford to every person, regardless of their beliefs. Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of off topic, but anyway.
David Ferguson asks, #AskHugo, how would theistic religion survive an encounter with an extraterrestrial civilization?
I can tell you right now how it would go because it's basically happened before. Let's look at the world circa 1300.
Okay.
The church is like, hey, we got everything pretty much figured out. We have a central church. We know our doctrine. Jesus came into this world and he gave a message, and we're in charge. We're the Catholic Church. And then, let's say 150 years later, they go, oh shit, there's another continent. There are tons of people who have never heard of this religion before.
We should go tell them.
No, but here's the thing. You'd think that would be... Nobody questioned, like, well, why don't they know about it? Shouldn't this be a universal thing?
Right.
No, of course not. They just, we need to go tell them about it. It doesn't faze them. In fact, I know for a fact that the Catholic Church, because they've said this before, and I've heard this in documentaries and stuff, and they say it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but they've said, hey, we have a plan in place if we ever find extraterrestrials. We don't think that contradicts our religion at all.
Isn't that weird?
That's part of the thing about religion. It allows people to do mental gymnastics sometimes. But,
yeah,
I think it would be pretty much unaffected. Some people would certainly have different opinions on it, but doctrines are malleable.
Yeah, but I don't think the aliens would get smallpox, because they'd be in really advanced spacesuits and have laser guns. Right?
Yeah, sure, whatever you say.
Brian Hall asks, have you guys ever read the graphic novel called Blankets by Craig Thompson? This comic novel is the closest thing to the opposite of a chick tract. Well drawn, pro-love, pro-atheism.
I have. I read that in a college class that was all about adolescent literature, actually. It was a really good class. I'm going to have to disagree with you on some points, though. I think it's a great graphic novel. I think it's awesome.
I thought it was pretty good, too.
I think I like the drawing style, I like the narrative, I like that it's the guy's personal story. I'm going to have to disagree with you that it's an atheist story, though. Because
I didn't get it either. I got more of a question asking.
Yeah, because the guy at the end of the book, and the guy, because it's based on his real-life story, he moved away from fundamentalism, but he's still a Christian.
Yeah.
He even says at the end of the book, like, I don't believe in hell anymore, I don't believe in a lot of those strict doctrines, but he still believes in a God. So I wouldn't say it's pro-atheism, I'd say it's anti-fundamentalism, and I think it's, like Jake said, pro-question asking. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's quite pro-atheism, though I could see how you could interpret it that way. And I think it's a humanist book, and I think it's about the experiences that we carry with us, and how we look back on them, and how they can affect our lives. But
I think that's one of the best books to read if you are an atheist coming out of religion. Yeah. Not only for the great storytelling and everything, but I mean, it's just it's so honestly written. I mean, you can. I understand why people say they cry after they read it. Mm-hmm. It's really good. I think that and The Stranger by Camus are the two books that I think every atheist should read during a transition phase or even after they're done and you're an atheist. I think those are two books that just, I don't know, they help.
I've never even heard of that book, so maybe I'll have to read it.
Stranger by I have it somewhere over there. It's great. And the last question for the third Ask Hugo of all time. Tovar Talero asks, if you were on an epic adventure and a mystical fairy told you that to progress further in your quest, one of you has to be transformed into a horse, which one would become the horse?
Now this depends on how the spell works. Are we turned into a generic horse that has all the normal horse attributes,
or a steed?
Are we turned into a horse version of ourselves?
A horse version of ourselves?
Because,
so we can still talk and shit?
Because if I were turned into a horse with my own attributes, I would be shot immediately because I would not be able to run 10 feet. I'd be the world's only obese horse.
I'm strong. You're not obese.
No, but I feel like it.
I'm strong enough to be a horse, I think. I think you could ride on me right now.
So I'm gonna say Jake.
I could be a horse.
Jake will be the horse.
Why am I doing this with my arms? That's not how horses run.
See, you'd have to work the mechanics out, but you're physically fit enough. There you go. Now you got it.
Yeah, it'll work.
So I'd say that's it. So thanks everyone for watching. This concludes another Ask Hugo. If you want, you can ask questions in the comments. If you had questions that you really thought were good in the last one and I didn't get to it, I'm sorry. We had a lot of good ones, but I had to pick my favorites. If you want, you can ask your questions again, and I will reconsider them for the next one.
And probably not be picked.
Yeah. If you want, you can also follow me on Twitter at Hugo Reloaded.
Or you can follow me at Bible Reloaded.
He has more, though, so fuck him. Anyways. If you want, you can donate to our Patreon, but you probably already know that if you're watching this video. So, thanks so much for watching. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been Ask Hugo.
Don't you ask me one goddamn question.